Hi Post-16, welcome to this week's briefing. Coming to you from my home to you in your home. I hope you are surviving yet another week of lockdown. We were hoping that this week we might have some bigger developments on the release of lockdown. I think very sensibly Bojo has decided that he's not going to instigate a massive release on the lockdown. I think for the sake of all of our safety, that's a good thing. We are posting information for you, as always, in the community classroom. Please make sure you've got your notifications turned on for your school email so that you can see when those things get posted. As and when we're finding things out from the government, we are posting information there for you. Now, last week in briefing, I was talking to you about Bojo's roadmap that he was going to be publishing on Sunday about how we would be coming out of lockdown. And then a couple of weeks ago in briefing, we were focusing on the idea of whether or not this situation with COVID-19 has actually been an equalising and levelling process, or whether it's actually highlighted some disadvantaged people and some people that do not have access to equality. And so I wanted to bring those two things together in briefing this week, now that we've got Bojo's roadmap out of lockdown, and focus on some things that are very much where the situation you are in is exactly the same as the situation that every other student your age in the UK is in. So I want to talk about the things that are equal for you and every other student in the UK of your age. Now, I've broken this down this week into the roadmap forward for Year 13, the roadmap forward for Year 12, and the roadmap forward for all of you, whoever you are and whatever age you are. So, the roadmap forward for Year 13. We have some clarity on the dates when things are happening now. So for example, for our students in Year 13, if you have been working on improving your BTEC coursework to give your teachers more evidence to be able to calculate a grade for you for this summer, then please make sure that by the end of this week you've submitted any changes that you want, because staff from next week will be going through the process of calculating your grades for BTEC subjects. The reason that staff are doing that next week is because we have dates now from the Department for Education and Ofqual about when centre assessed grades will be submitted to exam boards. And we now know that we have a window between the 1st and the 12th of June to submit grades. Now that will be the grades that we have calculated for you in school based on all the evidence that we've got for your A-level subjects, for the LIBF qualification and for BTEC subjects. So that's a window we've been given, that is now fixed. Those grades then go to the exam boards and they will go through a massive data processing exercise where they will look at the grades we have said that we think you should get. They'll compare it with any other data they've already got on you, including, for example, your Key Stage 2 scores that you got in your SATs. They'll look at, for BTEC in particular, any exam units or coursework units that you've already taken or submitted to the exam board during the course of the last 2 years. If you are doing a GCSE retake in either English language or maths, then they obviously will have your previous attempts. That'll be part of the data that they use to look at whether they think we've got your centre assessed grade correct. Obviously, for the number of subjects that are taken across the number of exam boards, it's going to take them a really long time to process that data. And that is why they are still aiming for the normal results day for you. So for A-level and BTEC subjects, your results day will be on Thursday the 13th of August. If you are taking GCSE retake English and Maths, then you have to wait for a week until the Thursday the 20th of August to get your result for those GCSE courses. IB results have always, even with COVID-19, been due to come out on the 6th of July. That's the date that they are available to schools to be able to download and see how students have done. And for schools that allow their students to do it, there is a means for students to have their own PIN number to be able to access those results on the 6th of July. However, as a school, we have never issued our students with a PIN number. It is not our intention to do that this year either, because we believe it's really important that we are there when you open your results so that we can support you, depending on what result you see when you open them up, and to be able to give you advice and guidance. So our intention is still to release them on Tuesday the 7th of July. And at the moment, now that we have the Bojo's roadmap out of lockdown, we are intending to do that face-to-face with you. It will have to be socially distanced. We'll have to be very careful how we manage that process. But we will not be issuing you with a PIN number, and we will be releasing them to you face-to-face on Tuesday the 7th of July. And then obviously once we get through the full results season, then you go off into your beautiful future, whether that is going to university or going off into work or an apprenticeship or beginning a gap year. So the roadmap ahead for year 12, that has become a little bit clearer, and I emphasise it's a little bit clearer now that Bojo has given us the national roadmap out of lockdown. If you watched the Prime Minister's announcement on Sunday, and if you followed what's happened on the news since then, you will see that the government has produced pages and pages and pages of guidance on how to make each step of coming out of lockdown happen, and it given us a rough timescale for how they anticipate it will happen. That is all dependent, remember, on the R number, the reinfection number, the reproduction number of COVID-19 staying below 1. As soon as it goes above 1, then everything that Bojo has mapped out on his roadmap all gets put on pause anyway. But at the moment, this is what we know based on what he said on Sunday and on the guidance that schools have received from the Department for Education in the couple of days following. So, what do we know? He said, and this remains in the guidance from the Department for Education, that it is the government's ambition that secondary pupils facing exams next year, so that's you, Year 12, will get at least some time with their teachers before the holidays. Now, in the guidance that has come since Bojo made that announcement on Sunday, it has become clearer that the guidance says that we do not expect pupils to return on a full-time basis at this stage. So we are hoping as a school to be able to get you into school, but it won't be a full-time return to school this side of the summer holidays. The guidance says that the face-to-face contact that schools provide for students in Year 12 is designed to support and supplement students' continued remote learning. In other words, the government is saying that it is still not safe to have all of you back in school all of the time before the summer holiday. But they do recognise that it's difficult working in isolation, and they recognise that lots of you would benefit from having some face-to-face contact with your teachers. So they have said to schools, including our own, that we need to provide some system to be able to provide face-to-face contact with teachers for you so that you can touch base with them, get some redirection, get some help, ask questions, get clarification on things that will then enable you to be able to carry on with your remote learning at home. Now, we are in the very early days of planning what that might look like in school. At the moment, we still don't know. We're waiting more guidance from the government. We have to conduct all kinds of risk assessments and safety assessments in school to be able to work out how to safely accommodate you in school on the days that we ask you to come back in. We also have to consider your safety on your way to and from school. Lots of you travel quite a distance on the train, for example, or on the bus, and we have to consider how we can safely manage your journey to and from school so that you feel confident and your parents feel confident about you making that trip into school. We also need to know that we've got enough staff that are going to be able to be in school to be able to make that work in a meaningful way. Lots of teachers have got children of their own, for example, and if they are not in year groups that are going back to school, then teachers will have to be at home still looking after their own children. That's going to present a staffing challenge for us. Obviously, we've got to be able to maintain social distancing in school, and we've got to go through a great long planning process on how we can make that happen. So at the moment, we still can't tell you what it's going to look like, but we do know that we will have some opportunity before the summer holiday for you to be able to be in school, if you and your parents feel that that is safe for you to do so, before we break up for the summer. The one thing amidst all of these question marks that still exist for us and are likely to be there for quite a little time yet, the one thing that is certain is that, as I have been trying to repeat to you in briefings every week and as I've been posting on our community classroom, is that the onus, the burden, is on you to be in charge of your learning. You've got to be the one that's taking control, because even if we get you into school for a day or 2 days or 3 days before the summer holiday for some face-to-face time with your teachers, you are going to need to be able to keep yourself going for the whole of the rest of that time. We've still potentially got another 9 weeks of term time before the summer holiday, and you might only get to be in school a couple of times. So you are going to have to keep yourself going. You're going to have to be keeping on top of your work, and you're going to have to be the one that is taking charge of this process. I told you about 3 weeks ago in briefing about Nelson Mandela's favourite poem that kept him going. It's called Invictus. All those years he was in prison. And the last 2 lines of the poem that became the thing that kept him strong enough to keep going, even in that challenging situation. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And I've got to repeat that to you today, because with all those question marks that we still have about what the next few months in school could be like, the one thing that remains true is that you are in charge. It's up to you how much you engage with your teachers, how much work you complete, and therefore you have to be the master of your fate. Don't allow fate to become your master. My and finally thought with you is a little bit of nostalgia for me. I am going to be the ripe old age of 50, half a century this October. And so we have to go back 31 years since I was in year 13. There I am. Back then, actually, when that photograph was taken, I was 19 years old. I thought you might enjoy seeing that photograph, because look how much hair I've got. Now, you might be worrying about your lockdown trim. You might be thinking, oh my God, my hair is out of control. Check out, that was a choice that I made back in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Check out how big my hair was. It was being blown around on a beach in that photo, so it does make it look particularly like the top of a microphone, but I thought you might enjoy seeing that this did actually used to be populated with lots of hair back in the day. However, the reason I'm showing you that is because back then I was very much focused on my dreams, the things I wanted to achieve in my life. I'd left school the summer before that photograph was taken, and I had gone off to university, and I had found quite quickly when I got there that I'd made the wrong choice of course. I'd actually gone to university to do a geography degree. And when I got there, I realised that that's not where my heart lay, and that I actually wanted to study English. And so I had to drop out from university that year, and I went back to the same university the following autumn to start my English degree. So it was a massive interruption to the plan that I had been building up towards for the previous 2 years. A little bit like the interruption that lots of you are facing now to the plans that you've been working towards. My solution when faced with that challenge was to make the best of what felt like a bad situation. And so I revisited my dreams, and I thought, how can I use this time that I've got when my plans have been thrown out the window to make this something meaningful and productive and life-changing? And so I made the decision that I was going to use the time that I had before I could go back to university. I had about 9.5 months to fill. And I decided I'd work for a bit to earn a bit of money, to give me the money I needed to be able to fulfil my dream. And I'd been dreaming for the previous 5 years of going and visiting Israel and living and working on a kibbutz, which is a communal settlement in Israel, where everybody, no matter what job you're doing on the settlement, everybody does an equal amount of work. Everybody gets given housing, everybody gets given the same flat wage as everybody else. So you could be the doctor on the kibbutz, you'd be earning the same as the guy who washed up the pots and pans in the kitchen. You've got the same standard of housing. It was a bit of a socialist ideal. And I'd always wanted to go and visit and see what it was like to live on that in that environment. And so I made it happen. Faced with the challenge, my plans out the window, that's what I chose to do. I took the opportunity. And I went off and I spent 4 months in Israel. That photograph was taken on the beach between the cities of Haifa and Jaffa. And that's why I'm being blown around in the wind quite as much as I am there, because I'm standing on the beach on the Mediterranean in Israel. And that was taken, look how happy I look in that photograph. It's because I was fulfilling my dream. It was something I'd always wanted to do. And that 4 months that I had in Israel was life-altering for me. Absolutely changed the direction of my life. It embedded the principles that I live my life by now. It taught me that I could make my dreams come true. It gave me a wider perspective on the world. I made so many amazing friends from all over the world who'd all travelled to Israel to do the same thing. And that experience made me the person that you all now know in school on a daily basis. The reason why I care quite as much as I do for all of you is because of the ideals of compassion and fairness and equality that I learned living on the kibbutz. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because I don't want any of you to allow fate to be your master. You are in control. Even when the plans you make are thrown up in the air, you can turn them around and you can make them something beautiful and fulfilling and meaningful and impactful for you on the rest of your life. And that's where you are now. Yes, your plans have been thrown up in the air, whether you're in year 12 or year 13, but you've got the power in your hands to turn this into something brilliant for you, something that can change your life. The shutdown, the lockdown, the enforced closure of schools will either be the making of you or the breaking of you. And I just want you to think of Mr. Burton with all that amazing hair on his head. Think, I chose to make my disruptive plans the making of me, not the breaking of me. So can you. I'll see you next week, Post-16. Bye.